Hey guys, so I wanted to hop on really quickly and create this video about what no one really speaks about when applying to PA school. I wish I had a video like this to refer to when I was applying, so hopefully this is a good reference for y'all, and hopefully if any of you guys are feeling like this when applying to PA school, you know that you're not alone. So let's talk about the emotional roller coaster after you submit your CASPA app. I remember submitting my CASPA app and feeling a sense of relief, but then right after that, at least for many of my programs, you receive secondary invites regardless of them looking at your application itself. And each secondary invite has probably 2 to 7 questions, and then each of these questions require at least 1 paragraph, if not 2 to 3 paragraphs for each question. So then I was flooded with a bunch of little essays that I would have to fill out. Following that, after you submit your secondary applications, you're waiting for interviews, and just that wait is excruciating. I remember going onto the PA forum and just constantly checking and looking at all the schools that I was applying to. And then sometimes you'll see some programs already offering interviews to other individuals, and that just sucks because I have a tendency to compare myself, and I'm sure many of you all do too. So I remember comparing the stats that people would place on the PA form to my stats and seeing like, oh, I have less hours than them, like I'm not as competitive applicant as that individual. And following that, like what made me not be as competitive as that individual. After you do that, then I remember it was just kind of a waiting game, and interviewing for PA school is quite long. So I interviewed in August, and I saw people interviewing even in like June and July, and then I know people that have interviewed until like March and April. After you interview, I tend to be the person that like runs over that interview over and over again and relives that interview in a sense and questions every response I provided, kind of the gestures or the responses my interviewees provided, trying to read what they were thinking. For me, I'm not the best interviewer, so interviews really stressed me out and was probably the worst part of the application process in itself. And so I remember a interviewer had asked me a very basic and simple question, and I did not have a response to that. And I had prepared for this question because it was kind of a question that is assumed that you'll probably be asked, and it was just honestly so sucky because it felt like I had prepared for this interview. I know these answers, but at that moment I just blanked out, and you know, that's part of the interview process and it's okay, but it just sucked. And after the interview, you're waiting for a response on whether like you're been rejected, accepted, or waitlisted. And for each school, it's quite different. So I think I heard back like within a week for some schools to 3 months. So in my last video about how I got into PA school as a first-time applicant, I told y'all that my top 2 choices were USC and Duke, and I ultimately was accepted at USC, and then Duke I was waitlisted to. And I remember my reaction to being waitlisted at Duke. I automatically cried. I remember the weeks following that, every notification I received on my phone, I had hope that it was potentially Duke extending me an acceptance letter. I was constantly checking the PA form to see if there had been any movement on the wait list, and it was honestly really difficult and emotionally like a roller coaster, and kind of accepting that I wasn't going to be accepted, but also leaving out hope that I was potentially being accepted, and then also trying to plan out my future 2 to 3 years of my life, seeing if I would be moving out all the way to the East Coast, and I'm from California, so it's a far move, or if I would be staying here in Southern California, and trying to plan that all out without having all the information. So let's talk about the interview timeline. I know individuals that interviewed, I think around June, July to all the way until March and April time. So it's a broad range. For me in particular, I submitted my apps within the first 2 weeks of June, and then I received interview invites in August, September, and I interviewed in September to October range. It was honestly pretty stressful because I had received 4 interview invites, and each of them were back to back. So I think I had an interview on Friday, and then I had an interview on Sunday, and then following that I had a week gap, and then I had the next 2 interviews back to back. Obviously, I'm really grateful to have received those interview invites. I just did not expect my interviews to be so stacked upon each other. I think after those 4 interviews, I had a gap of 2 to 3 months where I didn't hear anything back other than rejections as well as interview waitlists. And then I received 2 more interview invites, I think the month after. Following that, I would say it would be really beneficial to have a job that understands this, knows that you might be potentially calling off for a couple of days and only providing a 2-week notice. So that's something to consider. The next topic I really want to talk about is the cost of applying to PA school. I spent around $2,000 applying to 11 PA schools, and for me, I didn't even have to fly or Uber or get a hotel room because all the interviews were online. So those are additional costs that you might have to take into account when applying. So some of the things that were included in the cost when I calculated spending around $2,000 was taking the GRE, the prep for it, sending my results to different schools, as well as the CASPA exam, my CASPA application, as well as secondary, my interview prep, as well as the outfit. I would say just have 2 to 3 outfits and then just kind of rotate them. The schools won't know if you wear the same exact outfit to each of the interviews, and it helps to save you some money. I was lucky enough that I only submitted 1 deposit, but I know people that submitted multiple deposits, and that deposit money does actually go to your tuition, but if you submit deposits to other programs, they don't refund you, so that's money that you've lost. You can get some of these fees waived, such as the GRE, as well as the CASPA application and the CASPA, I believe. You just have to apply and qualify for these, so definitely look that up. The last topic I really want to cover is that some schools you might know right away that it's just not a good fit. One program that I interviewed with in particular, I knew right away that we were just not a good fit for each other. I'm not going to say the name of the program, and I did not say it in the video where I talked about the programs I applied to, just because I don't want any individual from that program to think that I'm talking bad about this program. I just want to be completely honest and transparent. So at this program, it was a group interview, and I remember asking a question along the lines to a faculty member regarding the support that they provide to their students, and prefacing this by saying that I was the first individual in my immediate family to graduate from a 4-year university. His response to me was basically saying that they won't hold my hand throughout PA school, and that he alluded to the fact that he thought that me being the first individual to graduate from a 4-year university in my family was a negative, and he saw that as a detriment. I just could not see myself being at a program that thought being the first individual in my immediate family to graduate 4-year university would be a detriment. I just could not see us click. In addition to this program didn't have a lot of diversity within their faculty or their students. I had kind of researched the school later on, not the health science school, but the overall school. The school, I believe, had one of the lowest diversity rates in the nation. So I just knew that this program was not a good fit for me. And when I received my rejection, I wasn't surprised. I think it was a mutual feeling of not being a good fit, so no hard feelings. Those are some of the topics that I wanted to cover about what no one really tells you about the PA school application process. I hope this was helpful, and I hope it makes you feel not as alone, and I wish you good luck on your PA school application. Don't hesitate to comment down below if you have any additional questions. I'll be more than happy to respond, and just have a good rest of your day. Bye guys!